Witches have long been an intriguing part of folklore, steeped in mystery, enchantment, and fear. The concept of witches hiding things in homes is one that has fascinated many for centuries. From the ancient practices of spellcasting to the modern interpretations of witchcraft, the idea of witches hiding items in their homes carries deep symbolism, connection to the unseen forces, and the use of hidden knowledge. It is a motif that pervades literature, mythology, and the practices of modern witchcraft. Throughout history, witches have been associated with practices that seem mysterious, secretive, and often dangerous. They have been seen as individuals who possess a certain knowledge that the average person does not understand, a knowledge that could bring both great power and great risk. This knowledge often required secrecy, as witches were frequently persecuted, feared, and even hunted down during the periods of history when witchcraft was viewed as something dangerous or heretical. During these times, witches would often hide their items, both as a form of protection and as a way to keep their practices and beliefs from the prying eyes of the general public. The practice of hiding things, whether it be physical objects or esoteric knowledge, plays a significant role in witchcraft. Items such as herbs, potions, crystals, books, and even personal talismans are often hidden in specific places within the home. These items are believed to carry magical properties or energies, and they serve as tools for casting spells, performing rituals, and connecting with spiritual entities. A witch's home therefore becomes more than just a physical space. It becomes a sanctum, a place of power, and a repository of knowledge. Historically, witches have hidden their magical tools for several reasons. One reason is simply the danger posed by being caught practicing witchcraft. In times of witch hunts and trials, witches could be accused of all manner of crimes, from practicing black magic to consorting with the devil. In such dangerous times, the hiding of magical tools, ingredients, or manuscripts was essential for the witch's survival. Secret compartments, hidden rooms, and concealed spaces within the home became essential for hiding things from inquisitors, neighbors, and even family members who might have been unaware of a witch's practices. In the world of witchcraft, there is also the concept of intention, and the idea that the items a witch hides are imbued with special significance. Witches often believe that items such as crystals, amulets, and herbs possess inherent magical properties. These items are hidden away not just for safety, but because they are sacred and should only be accessed when necessary. This is a reflection of the deep respect witches have for the tools they work with. They understand that their magical implements should be treated with reverence and care. These objects are more than just physical items. They are part of a larger spiritual system, and their hiding is a reflection of their importance and the secrecy surrounding their power. One common item found in a witch's home is herbs. Herbs have long been a part of magical practices, and many witches hide these herbs in their homes, both for protection and for use in spells and potions. Certain herbs are believed to have magical properties that can influence the elements, the mind, or the spirit. For example, sage is commonly used for purification and protection, while lavender is known for its calming and healing properties. Witches often store these herbs in small pouches or jars, which are then hidden away in drawers, cupboards, or secret compartments within the home. This practice is not only a matter of convenience, but also a way to protect the integrity of the herbs and their power. The hiding of these items ensures that they are used appropriately and are not exposed to the negative influences of the outside world. In addition to herbs, books are another key item that witches may hide in their homes. Books, particularly those that deal with magical practices, spellcraft, or the occult, are often seen as a source of great power and knowledge. The idea of keeping such books hidden speaks to the tradition of secrecy that surrounds witchcraft. In times when witchcraft was seen as a crime, owning a book on magic could be enough to lead to an accusation of witchcraft. Books on witchcraft were often banned or destroyed during witch hunts and inquisitions, and witches who wished to continue their practices in secret had to keep their knowledge hidden. In modern times, while witchcraft may not be as persecuted as it once was, many witches still choose to keep their magical books hidden or concealed, either for personal reasons or because the knowledge they contain is considered sacred. Crystals and other items with symbolic or magical significance also play a key role in the hidden practices of witches. These objects, often tucked away in places of significance within a home, are used to amplify magical intentions, to heal, or to protect. Crystals such as quartz, amethyst, or obsidian are considered to have various energetic properties, and their placement within the home is often deliberate. Witches might hide these crystals in specific corners of their homes, under their beds, or inside drawers, where they can quietly work to influence the energy of the space. Another interesting aspect of the hiding of objects in a witch's home is the idea of ancestral or spiritual protection. Many witches believe in the power of ancestors or spiritual guides who offer guidance and protection. These entities are often honored through the use of hidden symbols or objects placed in secret spaces within the home. These can include photographs, personal mementos, or small tokens that connect the witch to their spiritual lineage. By hiding these items, the witch ensures that the connection to these spiritual forces remains strong and that the sacredness of these relationships is maintained. The act of hiding objects in a witch's home is not only practical but deeply symbolic. It speaks to the secrecy, mystery, and power that witches believe they hold. It is a reflection of their connection to the unseen world and their belief that there is more to reality than what is visible. In a world that often demands conformity and obedience, witches have always sought to carve out spaces where they can practice their beliefs without fear of judgment or persecution. The act of hiding objects becomes a way for them to maintain control over their practices and to safeguard their connection to the magical world. This practice of hiding things in homes can also be seen as a form of resistance. Throughout history, witches have been marginalized and oppressed, often because their practices were seen as challenging the dominant social or religious order. By hiding objects that represent their beliefs and practices, witches are asserting their autonomy and their right to live according to their own spiritual truths. The act of hiding, therefore, is a form of quiet rebellion, a way of keeping alive traditions and practices that might otherwise have been lost. In the modern world, the practice of hiding magical items may be less about survival and more about maintaining personal privacy and autonomy. In an age of increasing surveillance and digital monitoring, many people, including witches, may choose to hide their magical tools and rituals as a way of protecting their spiritual privacy. The internet, with its vast reach, has also made it easier for people to find and share information about witchcraft. While this has led to a resurgence in interest in witchcraft, it has also led to concerns about the commodification and public exposure of practices that were once kept secret. The hiding of things in a witch's home is thus a multifaceted practice, one that is deeply embedded in both personal spirituality and cultural history. It is a practice that continues to evolve, shaped by the needs and circumstances of each generation. Whether for reasons of survival, spiritual protection, or personal privacy, the act of hiding objects in the home reflects the ongoing relationship between witches and the unseen forces that guide their lives. It serves as a reminder that, while much of the world may be visible and known, there are always aspects of reality that remain hidden, waiting to be discovered by those who seek to understand the mysteries of the universe. Witches have long existed at the fringes of society, practicing their craft in secret and often living in fear of discovery. The history of witchcraft is deeply tied to an era of intense persecution, especially in Europe and colonial America, when merely being accused of witchcraft could result in imprisonment, torture, or death. In these times, secrecy was not a preference, it was a necessity. To protect themselves, their families, and their beliefs, witches developed methods to hide their practices and the physical tools of their craft within their homes. These objects, though simple in appearance, bundles of herbs, handwritten spells, carved symbols or charms, carried immense weight and meaning. They were evidence of a forbidden knowledge that society had deemed dangerous, even evil. Thus, the act of concealing such items became an essential form of protection and resistance. During the height of witch hunts, particularly from the 15th to the 18th centuries, accusations of witchcraft were often based on fear, superstition, and societal tension. A woman might be accused simply for being different, too independent, too knowledgeable about healing, or even just for being a widow with no male protector. Once accused, any sign of non-Christian or unexplained practices could be used as evidence. Homes were searched for witches' marks and suspicious objects. Therefore, witches became adept at hiding their tools and symbols in places no one would think to look. Walls were hollowed out, floorboards were lifted, and items were disguised as everyday household goods. A bundle of herbs for healing might be hidden in a chimney or behind a false panel, while a book of spells could be written in code or disguised as a prayer book. The objects hidden were not merely tools. They were deeply personal extensions of a witch's spiritual practice and identity. Each item had a specific purpose: dried herbs for potions and poultices, candles for rituals, bones for divination, or stones and crystals believed to hold specific energies. Even small, seemingly mundane objects such as a thimble, a feather, or a jar of dirt could carry magical significance depending on the spell or ritual involved. Losing these items or having them discovered could mean the end of one's ability to practice, or worse, one's life. Moreover, these hidden items were often passed down through generations, linking a lineage of practitioners in secret. Mothers taught daughters where to hide things, how to disguise signs of magic, and how to navigate a world that viewed their sacred knowledge as criminal. This oral tradition, shared in whispers and shadows, helped preserve magical practices even during the most oppressive times. The act of hiding became a ritual in itself, infused with intention, protection, and fear. It also cultivated a unique form of creativity. Witches learned how to blend in with society while keeping their true selves and practices hidden. Beyond personal protection, hiding magical items also reflected a deeper philosophical truth of witchcraft, the belief that not all things are meant to be seen. Magic, in many traditions, is connected to the unseen, the hidden, the mysterious. Just as the energy behind a spell works in subtle ways, often beneath the surface of everyday life, so too do the tools of magic exist in the shadows, away from the eyes of those who would misunderstand or misuse them. Hiding these items was not only a means of survival, but also a form of honoring the sacred nature of their work. In essence, the historical need for witches to hide magical items in their homes is a testament to the danger they faced and the strength they showed in preserving their knowledge. It is a story of quiet rebellion, of persistence under persecution, and of the deep-rooted belief that even in the face of death, some truths are worth protecting. These hidden objects were more than tools. They were symbols of survival, resilience, and spiritual integrity in a world that feared what it did not understand. Witches have always maintained a deep and reverent relationship with the tools they use in their magical practices. Far from being ordinary household items, the objects found in a witch's home, such as herbs, crystals, talismans, and ritual tools, are infused with meaning, intention, and energy. These are not random possessions. They are chosen, consecrated, and used with care. Because of their spiritual value, these magical tools are often hidden, not only to keep them safe from outsiders, but to preserve their sacredness, protect their power, and maintain the privacy of the witch's practice. Every item in a witch's magical toolkit has a specific purpose. Herbs, for instance, are not just for seasoning food. They are used for healing, protection, love spells, banishing negativity, and connecting with nature's spirits. Each herb carries its own energetic frequency and is selected carefully depending on the intention behind the spell or ritual. Lavender might be used for peace and purification, rosemary for protection and memory, and mugwort for dreaming and intuition. These herbs are often dried, ground, and stored in small jars, sachets, or bundles, and are commonly hidden in drawers, closets, under beds, or even sewn into clothing or pillows. Their placement is deliberate, as is their concealment. By keeping them hidden, the witch ensures they are not tainted by negative energy or misused by others who do not understand their significance. Crystals are another common and powerful tool used by witches. These stones are believed to carry unique vibrations and are often used to amplify spells, offer protection, or support emotional and spiritual healing. Amethyst, for example, is associated with calm and spiritual awareness. Black tourmaline is used for protection. Rose quartz attracts love, and clear quartz is known as a master healer. Witches may place crystals in sacred spaces such as altars, but just as often they will be hidden in boxes, under mattresses, or in specific corners of a room to quietly influence the energy of the space or the people within it. Some witches carry small crystals in their pockets or wear them as jewelry, keeping the energy close while still hidden from those unaware of their purpose. Talismans and amulets are also deeply personal and magical items that witches often keep hidden. These can be objects that have been blessed, charged, or created during specific rituals and carry the energy of that intention. A talisman might be used to attract something desired, such as success, protection, or health, while an amulet is usually worn or carried for protection. These items can take many forms: a coin engraved with a symbol, a small pouch filled with herbs and stones, a carved bone, a written spell folded into a paper charm. Because they are often created for a specific person or purpose, and because their power is tied to intention and secrecy, talismans are usually kept out of sight, worn under clothes, hidden in bags, or placed in secret spots in the home. Then there are the more traditional ritual tools: the wand, the athame, a ceremonial dagger, the pentacle, the chalice, and the cauldron. These tools serve specific roles in ritual work, calling in energy, casting circles, representing the elements, or serving as vessels for offerings. Each one is typically consecrated through a ritual and treated with great respect. Many witches keep these tools hidden when not in use, either because of their sacredness or because they do not wish to invite judgment or misunderstanding from others in the household or community. Even altars, spaces dedicated to magical work, are often kept discreet or are disguised as ordinary shelves or decorations to avoid drawing unwanted attention. The act of hiding these magical items is not simply a defensive measure, it is also a way of preserving their power. Witches believe that magic is sensitive to energy. Exposure to skepticism, ridicule, or even casual handling by someone without respect for the item can diminish its effectiveness. Just as one would not leave sacred religious objects lying around carelessly, witches are careful with their magical tools, hiding them as an act of reverence and spiritual hygiene. In addition, the hiding of sacred objects reinforces the idea that magic is deeply personal and not always meant to be shared. It is a private relationship between the practitioner and the spiritual or natural forces they are working with. Keeping tools hidden is a way of protecting that relationship. It allows the witch to maintain a boundary between their inner spiritual world and the outer, often skeptical or hostile world. It also reinforces the sacredness of the practice. What is hidden is not lost or forgotten, but reserved, protected, and honored. In many ways, the concealment of magical tools reflects one of the core truths of witchcraft, that power is often quiet, unseen, and hidden in plain sight. It exists in the folds of everyday life, tucked away in the corners of a room, in a pouch around the neck, or in a box beneath the bed. These tools, humble in appearance but rich in meaning, serve as constant reminders that magic is not about spectacle or performance. It is about intention, connection, and transformation. And because of that, these sacred objects deserve to be kept safe, respected, and hidden until their moment of purpose arises. Books have always been vessels of knowledge, and in the world of witchcraft, they hold a particularly sacred place. For witches, books are not just sources of information. They are repositories of power, experience, and hidden truths. These are not the kinds of books found on the average bookshelf, often handwritten, passed down through generations, or carefully curated over time. Books on spellcraft, rituals, herbalism, astrology, and occult sciences are central to a witch's practice. Due to their significance and the nature of their content, these books have historically been hidden, tucked away in secret compartments, disguised as religious texts, or even burned to prevent them from being discovered. Even in today's more tolerant world, many witches still choose to keep their magical books private, not out of fear, but to preserve the personal and spiritual power contained within their pages. During the height of the witch hunts and inquisitions in Europe and colonial America, books on witchcraft were considered damning evidence. Simply owning a book that referenced herbal healing, astrology, or spells could be enough to warrant an accusation. Many of these books were viewed as tools of the devil, and people were often tortured into confessing their use. Because of this danger, witches who possessed such books had to go to great lengths to keep them safe. They might have written in code, used metaphorical language, or hidden their books behind false walls or under floorboards. In some cases, they memorized large portions of their knowledge to avoid having any physical evidence in their homes. This secrecy wasn't merely a matter of prudence, it was a matter of survival. Even outside of periods of persecution, witches have had reason to keep their books hidden. The knowledge contained within magical texts is often deeply personal, the result of years of study, experimentation, and spiritual exploration. These books are not mass-produced or casually shared. Many witches create their own grimoires or books of shadows, personal journals where they record spells, dreams, rituals, correspondences, and experiences with the spiritual realm. These books are sacred objects, filled with unique insights and magical workings that reflect the witch's journey. Sharing or exposing them carelessly can feel like giving away a piece of one's soul. Because of this, many witches choose to keep these books private, storing them in locked drawers, hidden boxes, or encrypted digital formats in the modern age. The hidden nature of magical books also reflects the esoteric quality of the knowledge they contain. Witchcraft is by nature a path of mystery, intuition, and personal discovery. Its wisdom is not meant for everyone, nor is it easily understood by those who have not walked the path. Many magical texts require not just reading but interpretation, understanding symbols, correspondences, mythological references, and the subtle energies behind each word. To the uninitiated, These texts might seem confusing, nonsensical, or even threatening, but to the practitioner, they are maps to the unseen realms, guides to working with nature and spirit, and blueprints for transforming the self and the world. Hiding such books is often an act of preservation, not only of the physical object, but of the energy and intention contained within it. In modern times, while society has become more accepting of alternative spiritual practices, there is still a lingering stigma around witchcraft in many parts of the world. For some, revealing that they own or study books on spellwork or occult philosophy can lead to judgment, ridicule, or strained relationships. In this context, hiding magical books becomes a way of maintaining personal boundaries. It allows the witch to protect their practice from misunderstanding and to continue their studies in peace. With the rise of the internet and the availability of occult literature online, access to magical knowledge has become easier, but the need for discernment and privacy remains. Some witches keep multiple books, one for public viewing and another that is entirely private. The public book may contain general information or teachings that can be shared with others, while the private book holds the witch's personal spells. The act of hiding items within a witch's home carries far more than practical meaning. It is deeply symbolic and spiritually charged. In the world of witchcraft, the unseen is just as important, if not more so, than what is visible. Magic operates on subtle energies, intuitive understanding, and a connection to realms that cannot be measured or seen with the physical eye. By hiding objects used in their practice, witches are not simply avoiding judgment or protecting their tools. They are participating in an age-old tradition that reflects their bond with hidden forces and the deeper mysteries of existence. Witchcraft, at its core, is rooted in the idea that energy flows throughout the universe, and that this energy can be influenced, redirected, and worked with through intention, ritual, and spiritual connection. The physical items a witch uses, such as crystals, herbs, bones, symbols, and talismans, are not merely tools, they are conduits. They help channel energy from invisible realms into the tangible world. To hide these objects is to recognize and honor the mysterious nature of magic itself. Just as energy is often imperceptible to the senses, so too are the instruments of that energy tucked away, shielded from the chaos and noise of the outer world. This practice also ties into the archetype of the witch as a guardian of secret knowledge. Witches have always walked the line between the known and the unknown, the sacred and the mundane. They act as intermediaries between the material world and the spiritual realm, using their insight to affect change, seek guidance, and connect with forces beyond human understanding. The objects they hide often symbolize this threshold between worlds. A hidden bundle of herbs might seem ordinary, but to a witch it could be a spell for protection, healing, or ancestral connection. A small pouch tucked into a drawer might contain charged stones or sigils created during a powerful ritual. The hidden nature of these items doesn't diminish their importance, in fact, it enhances it. Their concealment amplifies the sense of mystery, reverence, and spiritual depth. There is also a psychological and energetic reason behind this symbolic hiding. Many witches believe that keeping magical items out of sight preserves their energy. Exposure to doubt, ridicule, or even casual handling by those who don't understand the craft can interfere with the delicate balance of intention that magic requires. Hiding tools then becomes a form of spiritual shielding. It is an intentional boundary setting that keeps sacred energy protected from being drained, distorted, or disrespected. The very act of hiding in this context becomes a ritual of protection and empowerment. Beyond the individual practitioner, the symbolism of hiding connects to ancient traditions across cultures. In many spiritual systems, sacred knowledge is veiled, coded, or only revealed to those who are initiated or spiritually ready. The idea that truth is hidden, that divine or magical understanding must be uncovered layer by layer, is a powerful concept that appears in mythology, religion, alchemy, and mysticism. Witches, as keepers of hidden wisdom, continue this tradition by literally hiding the objects through which they access that wisdom. It's a physical manifestation of a spiritual truth. Not everything is meant to be seen or understood by everyone. Moreover, the practice of hiding can be seen as an expression of humility and respect. Witches often approach their craft not as masters of power, but as students of the natural and spiritual worlds. To hide a sacred object is to acknowledge that its power is not for show. It is something to be honored, not flaunted. It also prevents the ego from taking control of the craft. By keeping tools private, the focus remains on intention and connection, rather than performance or validation from others. In a broader spiritual sense, the hidden things of the world are often the most powerful. Roots grow underground before a tree can stand tall. The moon influences the tides, though it is far removed from the ocean. Our thoughts, emotions, and dreams shape our lives, even though they remain largely invisible. Witches understand this truth, and the act of hiding becomes a spiritual echo of the belief that the invisible holds just as much, if not more, influence than the visible. Ultimately, the symbolism of hiding magical items within the home is not about fear or secrecy in the negative sense. It is about alignment with the deeper principles of the craft. It is a way of respecting the energy they walk with, maintaining the purity of their intentions, and protecting the sacred space in which transformation occurs. It reflects a profound understanding of how the seen and unseen are always in conversation, and how power often lies in what remains just out of sight. Through this symbolic act, witches not only protect their craft, they deepen their connection to the spiritual forces that guide it. Ancestral and spiritual protection is a deeply important concept in witchcraft, as witches often view themselves as part of a larger interconnected web of spiritual energy that transcends time and space. Many witches honor their ancestors, spirit guides, and other spiritual entities, seeing them as vital protectors, sources of wisdom, and guides on their magical journey. To maintain this connection, witches often keep personal or ancestral items hidden in their homes. Objects like family heirlooms, photographs, tokens, or spiritual symbols that serve as tangible representations of these connections. The act of hiding these items serves both practical and symbolic purposes. By keeping such items concealed, witches protect the energy of the objects themselves, ensuring that the spiritual connection they represent remains undisturbed by outside influences. These objects are often thought to hold the essence of the ancestors or spirits they represent, and exposing them to negative or non-believing energies could weaken or disrupt that connection. The hidden placement of these items becomes an act of honoring their sacredness and a way of shielding them from harm. Items passed down from one generation to the next, such as heirlooms, family photographs, or relics, often carry deep significance for witches. These items are imbued not only with the memories and experiences of the ancestors they represent, but also with the energy of the family's lineage, history, and practices. In witchcraft, these items are viewed as repositories of ancestral wisdom and protection. A family heirloom, be it a piece of jewelry, a cloak, or a simple trinket, may be kept hidden to safeguard the protective energy it carries. Witches might keep such items under their beds, hidden in cabinets, or in secret corners of their homes to maintain the strength of the ancestral bond. Personal tokens or spiritual symbols also play an essential role in this protective practice. A witch may carry a small object, a pendant, a stone, a key, or even a handwritten note that has been imbued with the energy of a specific spirit guide or ancestral being. These items act as conduits between the physical and spiritual worlds, providing protection and guidance. Keeping these items hidden, whether tucked into a drawer, sewn into clothing, or placed in a sacred space, allows the witch to maintain a close and private connection with the spiritual realms, without exposing these potent energies to negative influences or prying eyes. Such objects act as an ongoing source of spiritual protection, creating an energetic barrier around the witch and their home, guarding them from harm, malevolent forces, or bad luck. Witches often understand that the protection offered by their ancestors or spirit guides is not just a passive force, it requires care and attention. Keeping these items hidden is a way of showing respect for the spiritual relationships they represent. It is a reminder that protection is not guaranteed simply by the presence of an object, but by the reverence and attention given to it. By maintaining a space for these spiritual connections and keeping the items hidden, witches can continuously feed the energies of protection and guidance. The act of hiding becomes an ongoing ritual of care and devotion, a way of honoring and nurturing these spiritual relationships over time. In addition, hiding ancestral and spiritual items often signifies the witch's deep respect for their craft and the sacredness of their practice. It is not a matter of secrecy for secrecy's sake, but rather a conscious act of safeguarding what is considered sacred. In this way, witches keep their spiritual practices intimate, private, and personal, creating a space where they can freely commune with their spiritual guides without interference. The hidden objects are not just physical, they are spiritual markers that guide the witch's path, help them navigate challenges, and provide comfort in times of difficulty. Whether through a family heirloom or a personal symbol, these hidden items act as reminders of the unseen spiritual forces that surround and support the witch. The concept of ancestral protection extends beyond the witch's own lineage. Many witches believe in the presence of ancestral spirits from both their bloodline and those who may have been adopted into their spiritual family. These spirits might not be their biological ancestors, but they could be revered figures, past practitioners of magic, or even guides from other traditions who have helped the witch along their path. In such cases, the spiritual items that represent these figures, whether talismans, sacred texts, or ritual tools, are often kept hidden to ensure that their power remains intact and undisturbed. Furthermore, hiding these items is a way of protecting the home energetically. A witch's home is often considered a sacred space, a sanctuary where the spiritual and physical realms come together. The objects that provide ancestral or spiritual protection are thought to create a protective field around the home. By hiding them in specific locations, such as under the floorboards, behind furniture, or in hidden altars, witches create energetic fortifications that shield their home from negative energy, bad spirits, or harmful influences. These hidden tokens serve as energetic guardians, continually emitting protection and blessings to the space and its inhabitants. The practice of hiding ancestral and spiritual items also reflects the witch's broader worldview, the belief that the physical world is intertwined with the spiritual one. In this view, what is unseen is often more powerful than what is visible, and the energy of the ancestors, spirit guides, and other spiritual forces has the ability to shape and influence the witch's life. The hidden items, whether material objects or spiritual tokens, are a constant reminder of the influence these unseen realms hold in the witch's life. Keeping them concealed is an act of reverence for the protection, wisdom, and guidance they provide. In conclusion, the act of hiding personal or ancestral items within a witch's home is a multi-layered practice that serves to honor the witch's spiritual lineage, connect with spiritual guides, and protect the home energetically. These items, whether photographs, tokens, or spiritual symbols, carry the essence of those they represent and must be safeguarded to preserve their power. Hiding these objects is not merely about concealment. It is about nurturing the sacred connection to the ancestors and the spiritual forces that provide protection, wisdom, and guidance. In this way, witches continue a long tradition of honoring the unseen energies that influence and shape their lives. In today's world, the reasons witches choose to hide magical items in their homes have evolved significantly from those of the past. While historical witches often concealed their tools out of sheer necessity to avoid persecution, imprisonment, or even death, modern witches generally do not face the same legal or physical threats in many parts of the world. However, the impulse to keep one's magical practice private remains strong, albeit for different and more personal reasons. In the contemporary context, hiding magical items has become an act of spiritual autonomy, a means of preserving sacred space, and in many ways a subtle act of resistance against cultural norms that still marginalize or misunderstand witchcraft. For many modern practitioners, witchcraft is a deeply personal path. It is not just a set of rituals or spells, but a spiritual worldview, a way of engaging with the self, nature, and the unseen forces of the universe. This personal relationship with the craft often leads witches to maintain a private practice, one that is not performed for an audience or shared widely with others. As such, magical items, such as spellbooks, herbs, crystals, tarot decks, or ritual tools, are not just functional instruments, they are intimate extensions of a witch's inner life. Keeping these objects hidden helps preserve their spiritual integrity. Just as one might keep a personal journal locked away, a witch hides magical tools to protect the sanctity of their practice from unwanted exposure or misunderstanding. In a society that is often driven by rationalism, materialism, and a discomfort with the mystical or the esoteric, witchcraft can still be met with skepticism, ridicule, or even hostility. While we may no longer live in an age of literal witch hunts, judgment and social stigma persist. For this reason, many witches choose to conceal their practices from co-workers, friends, or even family members. The fear may not be of death or imprisonment, but of being mocked, alienated, or dismissed. In such cases, hiding magical items becomes a way to maintain emotional safety and boundaries. A carefully hidden altar, a spellbook stored beneath clothes in a drawer, or crystals arranged to blend in with general home decor. These subtle acts are protective measures in a world that still doesn't fully accept or understand the diverse forms of modern spirituality. Furthermore, hiding magical items is often an act of asserting personal control and autonomy. In a culture where many aspects of identity, religion, sexuality, beliefs, and behaviors are often scrutinized or politicized, being able to quietly carve out space for one's spiritual truth is a powerful form of self-ownership. Witches do not always seek public validation or institutional approval. Instead, they often find empowerment in the private, the quiet, and the unseen. Keeping magical tools hidden becomes a way of preserving sovereignty over one's beliefs and practices, free from external influence or interference. It is a declaration that spirituality does not have to be on display to be real, valid, or powerful. This privacy also nurtures the inner aspects of the craft. Many witches believe that magic works best when intentions are kept secret, when spells are performed in silence, and when tools are treated with discretion. Hiding magical items isn't just about keeping others out. It's about keeping energy in. When sacred tools are exposed too casually or shared with people who do not respect or understand them, their energy can be diluted or disrupted. Concealment in this sense is a form of energetic protection. It ensures that the magic stays pure, untampered, and focused. Additionally, the modern witch often operates outside of mainstream religious and cultural norms. Despite the growing popularity of witchcraft in media and popular culture, real magical practice is still often misunderstood. Stereotypes persist. Witches are portrayed as evil, delusional, or simply part of a passing trend. Choosing to hide one's practice is sometimes a direct rejection of these simplified, commercialized images. It's a way of preserving the authenticity of a spiritual path that is rooted in ancient tradition, personal experience, and meaningful ritual. By keeping their practices hidden, modern witches retain control over their narrative and reject the notion that their spirituality must be palatable, visible, or mainstream to be meaningful. Moreover, the act of hiding magical items can itself become a ritual, something that reinforces the sacredness of the space and the seriousness of the work. Just as some religious practices involve veiling sacred images or covering holy books when not in use, witches may cover or tuck away their tools after ritual work is done. This isn't out of shame or secrecy, but reverence. It marks a transition between the mundane and the magical, reminding the practitioner that these tools are not just objects, but vessels of intention, power, and connection. The space where they are kept, whether a box under the bed, a drawer in a desk, or a disguised altar, is treated as a container of spiritual energy, not unlike a temple or shrine. For those living in shared spaces, especially younger witches, those in conservative households, or those still exploring their identity, concealing magical tools can be essential for safety and self-expression. A teenager learning tarot may hide their cards in a bookcase. A witch in a religious household might keep their altar items in a shoebox under the bed. These acts of hiding are not acts of deception, but of survival and boundary setting. They allow the practitioner to honor their beliefs while navigating a world that might not yet be ready to accept them. In essence, the modern practice of hiding magical items reflects the continued need for spiritual privacy, autonomy, and protection. It acknowledges the witch's right to choose how, when, and with whom they share their beliefs. It is a quiet, intentional act that says, "This part of me is sacred. This part of me is mine." In doing so, modern witches continue a tradition that stretches back through centuries, not only of concealment for safety, but of reverence for the unseen, the personal, and the powerful. Through this act, they reclaim space in a world that too often seeks to define, expose, or commercialize what should remain sacred.